Good stuff. Well, thanks for being here. I know if you're like me, you just want to take a nap because it's just the end of the year. And while I love the Christmas season, as my family laughs, I'm kind of a Grinch. I told somebody this morning, I said, well, I was talking to Tom, I said, well, I was less Grinchy this Christmas. He said, well, that's a start, and I love it, but I think, growing up and being involved in church and being involved in business, you have like Christmas parties, and I can remember a year or two ago, we had a youth group and worship team and church. I think we had like 6 Christmas parties, and then plus all the family stuff, and you just go, man, like it's always preparation and they're fun, but you just get tired, you just get kind of tired. So, but the Christmas season is coming to an end, and for some of us that's disappointing, and for some of us that's a big relief, and we get to end the year and start off the next year. Aaron and I were talking, I guess it's been close to 2 months ago now, about the Advent series, and he was naming through, some of the topics that were going to be there, and he mentioned hope, and something inside me, I was like, oh man, I'd love to talk about that. I love that subject, I love that subject, and I didn't say anything, and then a couple weeks ago, he says, hey, Caroline and I are going to get a little time away, which is awesome, because I don't know if you guys have ever started anything. I mean, sometimes it's just even hard to start your car, right? But if you've ever just started anything, started a business, or especially started a ministry or a church or anything like that, it's exhausting, it's one of those things where you go, you're so excited, and then you just hit kind of a brick wall, and man, no problem, I'm going to plow through it, and then you hit another brick wall, and you hit an exit you got to slow way down for, whatever it is. And so I was glad to see that he said, hey, would you mind doing the last one on hope? And I was like, oh yeah, I was actually kind of hoping, no pun intended, I was actually hoping to talk about that, which was awesome. And then as is typical, we ended up traveling this last week to Virginia, and I was also working at the same time, which meant I had to be on my phone a lot, and my wife's sister's house is in the middle of the woods in Virginia, which is awesome, but there's literally they have this little hotspot thing they put up and strategically in the window at a certain angle that gets like 1 bar of internet, so it's like I'm on the phone, like this, and trying to, anyway, so it was a long week, and then you throw prepping this into it, so I don't know what you guys are going to get. I mean, good luck. It was all in my mind, like I was like, oh, this is awesome, and there's all these pieces, and you try to like grab these pieces, and it's kind of like a puzzle, you're like, oh man, that right there, all that, and then after a while, it's like a 6-hour puzzle, and most of you won't stick around for that. You good Christians would, but most of you wouldn't, and so, and then it all seems like a really good idea. So we drove home yesterday, it's about 9 or 10 hours, and we got home, and I just wanted to sit on my couch, honestly. So I'm like, I'm gonna put this whole thing together. And I'm so tired. And then so 10:30, I just went, you know what? I just really need to go to sleep. And God, I sure hope you show up tomorrow. Like, that's my hope message for today is man, show up and show off through me, because I've got a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and I hope some of the pieces are for you guys. I always believe that, there's really no accidents. There are bad things that happen and good things that happen in our lives. There are random circumstances that we go through, or meetings we meet up with people or whatever, and we don't even know what the meaning of it was, and sometimes it smacks us in the face, and we're like, whoa, that was amazing. Like, I ran into this guy, and then that happened, and if I look back now, my whole life changed from that one guy I met for coffee, and then sometimes we never really realize it. But I do think that times like this, when we take times out of our day and we show up and we say, all right, Lord, man, I just need something. Like, I need a word, and I know that if I'm open, and if my heart is really open and not thinking about lunch later, or what I did wrong yesterday, or what I hope to not do wrong again, if I'm really focused in, and if I'm really open, I know that God speaks. I've always experienced that. Anytime that I've left a situation or a church service or anything and gone, I don't know, if I looked back and was really vulnerable and honest, I probably walked into it that way, and somewhat, I told you nothing, told you I wouldn't get anything out of it, So I believe God shows up for you guys. So I really think there's some words in here for some or all of you today, and I'm just glad you're here. I really am. I have a disclaimer. I've got some hope stories. We've all hoped for things in the past, right? We've all, hoped for this or hoped for that. I've got some of the best hope stories in the world. One of them sitting in the front row, hoped for 5 years that she'd let me out of the friend zone and ignored her for a week, and now we've been married 23 years later. So I've got great hope stories, but I've also got some hope stories that, I can look back and go, what in the heck was that about? Like, what was that? And so today, some of this might be a little bit raw, and it's probably not going to be, your typical rah, we're going to go into this new year and everything's going to be so good because doggone it, you're good enough and smart enough and your mom loves you. Like I don't do that really well. I'm a very hopeful person, and I feel like I'm pretty motivational, but at the end of the day, truth is truth and hope is sometimes hard, right? So that's just a little disclaimer there, but I want you to go with me today, and we've got a couple verses we'll go through. Not going to talk for very long. I think we'll end the year on a nice short service and go eat some Mexican food or whatever you love and take a nap. So would you pray with me? And when I say pray with me and pray for whatever God wants you to hear today that you hear. So, Father, thank you so much that we get to be in this room, and as crazy as it sounds, that you're just right here. You're all around us. You're sitting in the seat next to us. You're standing in the back, watching the back of us, whether we're here in the best of moods or the worst, the highest of times or the lowest. You're here, and you're here for us. You're here to put an arm around us or to give us a high five in celebration, no matter what. You are here. And we thank you for that, Father. And I just pray for all of us that are in this room and all of us that are traveling and couldn't show up today, Father. I pray that you're just with them. You're with our family members that do and don't know you. You're with our friends that we go to work with, our friends that we play sports with, and pray that you just end this year with those that we love. And God, we love you. We want to honor you. Help us to just listen to you today. Amen. So, as we start the new year, there are some of you in here that have these goals for next year, right? And some of you, and you don't have no raising of hands because you'll get heckled by the opposite crew, but some of you, you're hoping something will happen. Nothing really set in stone, like you haven't written it down or anything. It's in your head. Maybe you do that because, you don't want to fail. So if you don't write a goal down, then if you don't achieve it, you never really fail, right? Something like that. There's a little adage to that. And some of you have them well thought out. Like there are Excel spreadsheets with several tabs on a computer somewhere. You're tracking your time. You're trying to step by step get somewhere. I just saw Chuck look at Molly because he probably has a few of those, but which I love, and you can do mine for me. But some of you are that detailed, and we're going to go into this year, and there's going to be a lot of those hopes, a lot of those dreams. Some of it's for financial success or maybe financial freedom. Some of us it's for we want to exercise more, or we want to get out more, or we want to spend more time with our kids, or want to spend more time in the Word, or and for some of us it's a little bit different. Some of us it's hey, I just need to get through this season. I just need to turn a page. I just need to get somewhere. Something's heavy on me, and so as you look out, as I look out, I see the world in so many different ways because I feel like I've lived through a lot of those different seasons. A lot of us have, and we can look back, and if we take some time and reflect, we can actually go, hey, here's where I am right now, right? Okay, where am I at right now? And we live so much in tomorrow. Even when it's not December 31st, we live in tomorrow. We go, hey, I wonder what March will look like. And once we get the boat, then the kids will be happy, or whatever it is. And we forget to kind of live in today. So I want to stop for a second and slow down a little bit and try to live a little bit in today. But sometimes hope is survival. You don't have to turn to it, but Psalm 119, 114, it's a long chapter when there's 6 numbers in the passage there, but Psalm 119, 114, this is David. The Psalms are written by David, and David, if you ever want to go, hey, what about the seasons of life? Like, who's actually lived through seasons and really was in their heart and really shared about it and really has something to say about the season I'm in? Man, if you just read Psalms, if you just Googled Psalms, bad season of life, or troubled times, or enemy, or high times, amazing times, if you look at David's life, man, he lived all of those times. I mean, he was king, he was ruler, he was an overcomer, he was an overachiever, he looked out over all the land, and I mean, there's nothing that he could see that wasn't his, right? And then there's times when he was not so great, when he got ahead of himself, right? When he went, I deserve more than I deserve. I want his wife, right? Then there are times when he was chased, and this verse, I believe, comes from time of him being chased, and got to go to Israel earlier this year and go to the place where he hid out with some of his army, and it's this cool place, and it's kind of the Dead Sea's here, and there's a road that goes next to it, and then there's rock formations and stuff, and then there's a place that just goes up in the rock formation, and it was his hiding place. And there's a spring all the way at the end. If you hike all the way up, there's a cave. What was a cave? The face of it's fallen down. The rocks are kind of off to the side, so it's more of just an opening in the rocks. But there's a spring that comes out of the rocks up high, and it waterfalls way down, and then there's a pool right in front of you. And there's all these little places carved out of the rock. There's all these little places where perhaps the guys in his army hid out, right? And as you're walking up through there, when you read some of these verses, you're just like, oh my gosh, like this is what he was writing about. He could have been on that rock right there in front of that pool going, God, you are my hiding place. Psalm 119, 114, you are my hiding place and my shield. I hope in your word. See, he knew God's word. He knew it. He probably knew it a lot better than a lot of us, because he studied it, and it says that he was a man after God's own heart, right? So he knew his word. So his hope was in that word. So when he was at his end, when he was being chased by an army of thousands, he's sitting on a rock by a little stream somewhere hiding, but at the end of the day, you are my hiding place. So some of us are going to go into this next year, and maybe that's how we're feeling. Maybe that's how we're feeling. I'm going to go out of order here, but 4 years ago, that's how I felt. For sure, 4 years ago, that's how I felt. I grew up with, in just not bad circumstances by any means, but circumstances in my childhood to where I needed to prove what I could do. I needed to prove that they were wrong. I needed to prove to myself, prove to my family, prove to other people that even though I had done this, and this, or even though this had happened in my family and that broke apart, that I could accomplish, which set apart decades of accomplishment, failing forward, right? And I used to say that all the time, man, just keep failing forward. Why? Because I'm just so strong. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I had a positive attitude, and I would hope, right? I would hope for more and hope for that, and I would hope for another house and hope for a different car and hope for more revenue next year for our business and all these different things. Well, 4 years ago, our financial side of things became much different than it had been for the decade before that. So I found myself trying to save some businesses and trying to figure out how to save these things, and it's kind of one of those deals where you're just trying to catch everything, and you're trying to put it on your shoulders and go, oh, I can save it all, I can do this. And what I ended up seeing was a life of about 6 months spent traveling back and forth from Nashville to Warrenton, Virginia, every week to these businesses trying to save them, when God had clearly said, I'm asking you to move on. It's so scary. So scary to be in that season. And I can remember I was staying at my sister's house, which was humbling because, just a year or two before that, I would have put myself up in the Hyatt, right? Because I deserved it, because I was such a good guy, right? But I'm staying in my sister's basement, in the little bedroom in the basement, which was blazing hot because the thermostat's upstairs. There's like a furnace down there, and up all night long, just staring at the ceiling on God, like, just give me the answer, like, I'll do good things. Just don't let it all fall apart. Like, it's 25 years of my life that I've put into this thing, and where are you? Like, where are you in this? And the truth was, he was in it the whole time, but I ran out of prayers. And I've never had that happen in my life. Maybe I don't pray enough, but I literally ran out of prayers, and I remember the night just sweating in this bedroom and staring at the ceiling, and just finally just go, I don't even have anything left that I can actually pray anymore. There's nothing left. I was just empty. And the Lord's Prayer came to mind. And the part that really rings true to me is where it says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And that just blew me away, because I went, "Oh, right, your kingdom. Your kingdom." And all these years, I didn't know it. I mean, we were good. We went to church. We served. We loved people. We gave time and gave money and on the worship team and check off the boxes and perfect attendance. I mean, we were going for the penthouse in heaven, right? I mean, we were just, it was perfect, and, so to speak. But it was all my kingdom. And so while those hopes came crashing down, so to speak, a new hope was born that will never be shaken from me, because in that moment I went, "Oh, right, that's right." And all of a sudden the Lord's Prayer meant something to me. Right around that same day, I remember going to Chick-fil-A by myself up it was cold, and got a chicken sandwich and my credit card worked, and I sat down and I looked at a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, which maybe all of you do every time you get one of those because they're really good, right? But I looked at that sandwich, and for the first time in my life, I said, "Thank you so much." For the first time in my life, I actually feel like I actually gave thanks for a meal. Because before, I grew up in a Christian house. We said grace all the time. It was super boring to me as a kid. I just wanted to eat, right? So it was for the first time, I literally sat there staring at this thing like, "Oh my gosh." My credit card worked. A year before this, we ate at the best restaurants, and here I'm sitting there. "Oh, thank you so much. Thank you that you fed me today." And I'd never replaced that. Probably the sweetest season of my life was finally getting to a point where I realized that the hope wasn't in me all along. And we hope and we hope and we hope, and it's awesome. We're good Americans. We have dreams, right? We can hope ourselves. You can be the president one day, right? Our parents tell us that. If they're good and highly delusional, you can be the president one day, right? But you can be an astronaut. You can be a pilot. You can be whatever you want, and I love that. But sometimes the American way takes us over here, and the hope is in us. And we just hope ourselves and hope ourselves and hope ourselves to just a little bit more, just look a little bit better, right? To just have a few more followers on Instagram or Facebook, just to get a few more likes, just to be a little bit more popular. I hope that I get this next position in my job. I hope that this, and I hope that that. And then on the back side of it, if we're somewhat linked into what, God's will is, and we want to please Him, and we want to strut, we're trying to find out where exactly that path is that He has for us, we kind of back it up with a little bit of rationalization, and we go, because then, oh man, we'd be able to give more. When we've wanted big houses and we've had some good ones, we've gone, but it's that way, if anybody needs any place to stay when they come down, if somebody comes like twice a year, we've got like 3 extra bedrooms, and, twice a year they get used. But that makes, we'll start to rationalize things a little bit, right? But what's crazy is that the hopes that we have, the dreams that we have, if we really filtered them out and we really said, hey, how much of them are God's will and needs, and how much of them really are just kind of wants? And that's why I say, man, I'm going to get a little bit raw today, and it might even sting a little bit every once in a while, because we've lived through that, and it's tough. It's really hard to see. It's really, really hard. But those hopes can become these distractions, and those distractions, when given time and given effort and given our heart, right, and our mind and our thoughts, and if we just had a boat, we could take people out and feed them in it. Yeah, that's what it'll be. We're gonna feed the people that need to be fed off. Somehow we'll get it in there. But those distractions, all of a sudden, they start charting the course of our life. Distractions are cool, and I love boats, I want one, but the minute it becomes, it starts charting my life, and man, we're really good at getting 100 miles off course. Amen? Anybody ever been there? Anybody there right now? Right? I don't think we ever get it right, but we can get close. I was sitting with a bunch of high schoolers a couple years ago. We did this little small group during church time, and was really trying to. It's so hard to cut through these days, you know. It's so hard because there's so much stuff, you know. So I'd always be like, all right, cell phones in the middle of the room, you know, and we'll sort them out later. Hope you get yours back, you know. But there's 20 or 30 of them, and we're sitting there, and they're a good group of kids, really were good thinkers. Nashville, very creative bunch, smart bunch of kids. I mean, they're, you know, but there's so much industry there, and there's so much image there, and there's so much identity there in Nashville. It's hard for them to get out of the box and then go, oh yeah, what does God hope for me? Well, what if that's not what I want? That's a great question. But I said, hey, let's do this. I want to talk about wants versus needs. I want to talk about the things that we wake up every day and that we need, and I want to talk about wants. So in a longer conversation, we had two big pieces of paper, and they were really thinking hard. And we had a big old piece of paper over here of needs that had about 4 words on it. And then we had pages over here of wants. And the things that they walked into that room that were needs were now over here, and the things that they needed were over here. And it was literally oxygen, food, water, God, and relationships. It was all they could come up with. And let me tell you, they thought really hard. You know, Instagram didn't make the list. Madden didn't make the list. Sorry, Declan. You know, all these things just didn't quite make the list of needs. But all these things that they hoped for day to day, they made a big old list of wants, right? And there was many things on that list that were charting the course of their future. How scary is that, right? How scary is that? Sometimes hope is positive, motivating, and triumphant, which I love, which is usually where I fall on this subject, is on this, man, we can achieve anything. Like next year's going to be great, right? Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Man, I love that. And that's how we need to go into this new year, is saying, man, I know he has plans for me, but we got to be really careful and go, well, time out real quick. Let me just kind of put a filter over this real quick and go, okay, is this his plan or is it mine? It's so hard, right? It's so hard because there's so much stuff. I'm obsessed with trying to find a different house right now because I just want a little more space in the yard and a little less square footage in the house. And Craigslist comes up, and I'm like, do I really need to obsess about this? Because if I really just trusted him, he'd probably the house would just bump into me. But instead, how many hours am I going to spend trying to find something different, you know? So it's hard. But I love this. If we go back to that Jeremiah 29:11, at the end it says to give you a future and a hope. It says that in the ESV version as well as the Amplified. And I love the way the ESV says it because it says a hope, not just hope. And I think we get those confused. Oh, man, I'm hopeful. Man, I hope for this, I hope for that. Well, time out. What about a hope? And who do you think a hope is? Right? Who do you think a hope is? We spend lives, and I do mean lives, hoping and looking for hope, when the hope was born, died, and rose again thousands of years ago. We make the next weight loss program, get richer goal, have more free time mantra, get a better beach bod exercise, or social media image builder picture filter priority, giving us jolts of hope in our lives rather than simply taking a deep breath and falling back into the arms of the hope that's there all along. It's crazy, but it's so subtle. It's so subtle, right? We're born with something that wants hope right here. And we oftentimes spend seasons or a lot of our lives trying to find different pieces of the world to fit them in. And they just never quite fit. And they'll do well for a few days. You know, everybody's bought a new car. We're never eating in this car. 3 weeks later, you're digging French fries under the front seat because you should eat in the car again. It's just the newness wears off, right? I don't care how much you spent on the car or what it was or what dream of a car it was. You end up eating French fries in the thing. It's always the way it is. But we spend our lives trying to put those pieces together, and they just never quite fit. And hear this doesn't mean, man, we're not supposed to be successful. Man, don't hope for more. Just sit back and God's going to bring it all to your doorstep and, just give everything away and quit your job and do all this. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is they've always got to have that side of your brain where it's going, well, hold on a second. What's he hope for me? Is my hope really in him? Do I trust him? Which is hard, right? Do I believe that he died on the cross and rose again for my salvation? Is my hope really in him? Or am I actually beginning to fade away from that and take things into my own hands? Because what I've noticed is as I do that, I can be pretty darn successful at getting pretty darn successful and feeling pretty darn good about myself and starting to build my kingdom again. And then I go, time out. Oh, I'm doing it again. I'm building my own kingdom again, and I have to try to come back over here. And sometimes this is a 1 week off the path journey, and sometimes it's a year off the path journey. But it takes a little bit to get. He's always over here going, hey man, come on back. I got you. I get it. I understand. Come on back. I'm here for you. So wherever you found yourself today, he's there waiting. Man, if you're at the pinnacle of success and what if I could just get a little bit more, he's there waiting for that going, that's cute, man. I love it. You are successful. Good job. Or if you're at the bottom where some of us find ourselves sometimes going, yeah, I don't have any prayers left. What should I pray now? None of them have worked. We've been there. The day you value his kingdom over yours, you give hope room to work in your life. Until then, it's your show, it's your plot, it's your credits that run at the end of the episode. Until then, the what you hope for are merely a distraction. And again, they'll become the course of your life if you're not careful. As we go into worship, singing words specifically written to open our hearts to bless his, I encourage you to use the stations in the back. We talk about them from week to week. If you're a visitor, this will be new to you, but they're really designed just to be your space. We grew up in church, and there was, maybe it was us, it was our baggage, but a lot of times it was just like an expectation level, right? There's kind of like I gotta just sit out. Oh, everybody's raising their hands. This is really hard, and you kind of like, and you may sometimes you do a hand or what, but we do this because there's no expectation level. Where you're at is where you're at. You might want to sit right in that chair and stare at the floor and go, well, God, that's a different way than I've thought about it. Am I building my kingdom or am I building your kingdom? Can they go? Do they go together? Are they far apart? Are they almost there? You just stare at the floor and think about that. Maybe you want to get up and you want to go and take communion at the communion table by yourself or with friends or family and stand there and take communion and just take a second and go, oh my gosh, like we're standing here taking communion to honor the fact that he bothered to die on the cross for everything that I've done incomplete or wrong in my life. And he bore that pain that I caused. I just want to take a second and think about that. Pray over this next year with your family, your friends, or yourself. Maybe you need prayer. There's a prayer station over to your left there. And if you need prayer, go over there. Somebody's probably going to join you. Maybe you just need to kneel in front of that cross and thank you. Maybe you need to kneel in front of that cross and go, man, I'm way off course. Help me out. It doesn't have to be elaborate. I talk to God the same way I talk to you guys. Man, what's up, dude? Where am I going wrong right now? We have a very funny relationship. I argue with him a lot, and he doesn't say words sometimes, but I argue with him a lot. Maybe that's what you need. There's a giving station in the back. If you want to give give back of what you've been given, give it there. There's a table in the middle, and there's some candles. There's a little sign that says hope and a verse to go along with it. There's one candle lit, and as you light a candle, just remember what hope means to you now. Perhaps something you've learned today, perhaps something that in the past you'll go, man, that's what that was. But I want you to remember that no matter what you're hoping for next year, what hope actually is and who hope actually is. Because without that, we're nothing. Father, thank you so much for this day. Pray as we go into worship, Lord, that we are able to, we're just able to soak in your presence. I don't know how else to say it, Father, but life is busy and this year's coming to an end, and there's no way any of us spend enough time with you, Father, and I just pray that you just help us catch up. No matter where we're at and how great we're doing or not, we need to be filled up by you, Father. Tomorrow starts a new year, and we want all the that you have to give, and we know you have much. So, Father, I just pray that you fill up hearts tonight. Pray that you help us end this year well, Lord. We love you.